Mm.
So the first thing, of course, they told me I was OCD.
Mm.
Being Capricorn by nature, I think I already had some of that, but this is a different kind. The compulsive, nature.
Mm.
Then the second thing, they said I had PTSD. Well, that would make sense. All those years of dealing with nothing but trauma, personal trauma,
Yeah.
first aid, fire calls, 911 calls, all of that built up inside me.
Yeah.
And I was ever getting treated for it. And then the third thing I got diagnosed with was bipolar 2.
Really?
Yeah. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. Something was going to happen. And it was undiagnosed for God knows how long, because at the time this is happening, I'm 41 years old.
So it took them. So it took you to get caught and go through this investigation, see a psychiatrist. Finally, after 41 years, so you be diagnosed with 3 different more conditions.
Correct. Yep.
41 years. All right. So when they sentenced you, because I know you did what, 2 years and so many months?
Yeah, 2 years and 11 months officially.
2 years and 11 months.
Mm-hmm.
Walk me through, if you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
When you first got in there, the first night you were there, because I know that had to be hard.
Yeah, that was. I just have to mention one quick thing about my sentencing hearing that's pretty huge.
Okay, go ahead.
It was just me and my mom, and we walked into that courtroom for my sentencing.
Mm-hmm.
I had hired an attorney because we wanted to keep it as close to 3 years as we could get.
Got it.
We paid him. Now, we walked in there, and it was just me and mom. I had no other people there until I got in. Once I walked in, there was like 27 members of my fellowship that came out of anonymity,
Whoa.
knowing I was going to prison,
Whoa.
and sat in that courtroom.
Whoa. Wow.
They all came together. They wrote letters. They had, my sponsor spoke on my behalf. My sponsor spoke on my behalf.
Mm-hmm.
And the number one thing that helped me was that my mom wasn't going to be leaving that courtroom alone without me.
Got it.
That they were there for her.
Mm-hmm.
So, the sentencing went on. And then now we get into the first steps of me, being put in holding. I was going to be taken to county for a couple days, and then I was going to be sent to state.
Yeah.
So the day, during my sentencing, and it's gotten back to me from like members that were there that day. Like to this day, now they have actually come and said that they have never met a judge more remorseful about sending someone away than they did that day.
Wow.
So yeah, that was pretty huge. And I just recently found that out. But so I get in, as I'm headed over to the county jail, we have like a mixed male and female bus that goes to the county from the court. A gentleman's getting on. Remember, I'm in all court clothes. I didn't, it was whatever. Gentleman's getting on the bus, and he's like, what did this lily white librarian do? Steal some books? What is going on here? And I'm just like, automatically I'm like, great. Now they think I'm 60 days in. This is what I'm going to be stuck with. Just that awkward, oh man. So it was like, haha, funny, okay. That first night. So because it was in the county that I worked in, there were a lot of times as a, working with the police department, if female prisoners had to go to the county, a county I was well known in, if they had to go, I would usually, tag along, make sure they're okay, if they were with a male officer, whatever. So I knew everybody in there. And they also knew by the news that I was coming. So if another family member who was a police officer, maybe, locked somebody up and they didn't like it, so automatically another tag, they have to put me by myself. That first night. Okay. I'm like in a solitary whatever. So I'm like, just keep putting the tag on me, really. I got there that first night, and all I did was cry. Just cried. Cried. I was at the county for 3 days.
Mm.
You know, I didn't have anything, you know. I don't know, you know, what's going on really, you know, and they're just like, they kind of didn't really care about what I needed or wanted or anything because I wasn't going to be there that long. It's a state's problem.
Okay.
So,
So, one question, but before we get to the state prison,
uh-huh.
at this time with sentencing and everybody coming to your court date, how was your family's reaction to all this?
Okay.
If you feel comfortable.
Look, I know there was disappointment without you know, without anything. How it all happened was when I first told mom, like when I first told my parents and I first told my brother, it was you know, within, you know, a couple days of them showing up at my house telling me I was investigated. So it was like before Christmas. All my immediate family was down in Louisiana. Mom was visiting. Of course, dad lives there. Danny's there. And the first person I called was my brother. You know, first person I called was my brother. And I was like, hey, here's the deal. And I told him what was going on. You know, he was able, you know, he's always been there for me. He was able to tell them all at once. I had to pick up my mom from the airport from that trip. And coming back from the airport, and you know, we just went to get something to eat, and it broke me because she put it all on herself. Was I not a good parent? Was it, you know, like, did me and your dad not try so hard? And that conversation was just like, it's not your fault, mom. No, you know, no. So that was all coming into that play. You know, my brother reached out and, you know, he put a post up just saying, you know, put a post up with, you know, scriptures or whatever saying we cannot judge people. Everyone makes mistakes kind of thing along those lines. You know, he took care of a lot for me, even being so far away. Then, you know, but my parents, they really kind of just blamed themselves at first. And I had to, you know, tell them no. And here I'm getting help. When it came to my other family members, you know, aunts, uncles, cousins, I pretty much just wrote a heartfelt email, you know, told everybody, you know, I'm sorry for shaming everyone. I know this is, you know, kind of along those lines. They all accepted it, and they pretty much wrote letters on my behalf. My two uncles got together to see, you know, help me understand what I was going to be facing. You know, they found a corrections officer to kind of let me know what was coming. They all used their connections, like, I don't want to say connections, but they all used friends of friends of friends, you know, whatever they had to do. But there's really no amount of time that can prepare you, you know, for going behind those bars, as, you know, your whole life was on the side of things. So that was the family's reaction at first.
I can tell I want to tell everybody that 50% of gamblers have experienced a mood disorder. 41.3 has experienced anxiety disorder, and 60.8 has experienced a personality disorder. Out of all these disorders, have you experienced any of these disorders, like mood disorder, anxiety, personality disorder? Did you experience any of these?
I have all three.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. The
The
OCD,
mood one, yeah, I figure out the mood, right? But
PTSD,
yeah,
bipolar. Yeah, they all play in each one of them.
Chris, I'm telling you right now, this is crazy. But I had to keep on asking stuff because I know there are some people out
Yeah.
there that's going to understand you and feel you, and maybe I know this is going to help out so many people. When you got to the state part, because I know the county is totally different from state.
Yeah.
The top level is federal. Thank God, thank goodness you didn't go to federal, but state is just as bad. When you got to state, because you say you knew a lot of people that worked at the county, did you know anybody or from the state there, like people who work there, or no?
No.
Okay, so you got to the state, and that's a big difference. You're on your own at this point.
Yeah.
Can you walk me through briefly those two years and 11 months experience?
Absolutely. First of all, if I didn't think when I got there that gambling wasn't right for me, I was about to find out it definitely isn't.
Okay.
First got there, we were put in this super hot gymnasium. There had to be about 200 women. It's a gymnasium and we're on bunks. They call it reception. We're all on like bunks. Okay. The showers are in the corner. We're basically caged in. It was just horrible. We did everything in this big space. That's it. You're there for 2 weeks. Okay. And, the state prison that I went to, I don't know if we can say names, but there was only
No.
one.
No.
Yeah,
They say state prison.
it's all right. There was only one female state prison at the time. It's currently shutting down.
Got it.
So just because of, the environment, it was not in the best of conditions at all. Things
Got
are
it.
falling apart, whatever. Okay. After 2 weeks, you get classified. I was classified, of course, on the minimum. They called it grounds. And you were in different cottages, like you're assigned to a cottage. They assigned me to a cottage that was, I can only explain it as, say you have a kindergarten class and you're in class and they lock the teacher in the closet. Let's
Jesus.
say, and we're all adult women.
Okay.
So, I know.
Wow.
I always say it's bad enough to think about, being in a room with like 3 women 24/7, but let alone all of these. No, I'm good. So yeah, it was kind of chaotic. After a couple, I was only in there for about, I'd say a month and a half. And then I got accepted into the program. I got accepted into a program where they raise puppies. So you have, they train puppies to become protection dogs and things like that.
Yeah.
I was like, that sounds good. I did apply, I did get accepted, and I got moved to a much better cottage, and I was going to be working with these dogs. Like I said, it was a good experience when I thought I was going to be there for the full, another 2.5 years. So that would have given me time in this program.
Yeah.
And plus the puppy program was kind of like the Illuminati of that entire, it was the Illuminati, but if somebody didn't like you and said that something happened, or, they saw you walking the dog wrong, or they just didn't like you, once you went right to lock if you did anything to these. Yeah.
Really?
Like Illuminati, but don't make anybody mad.
Are you serious?
Yeah. It was a program. It's just the way that it was. So,
okay.
Yeah, so I got into that. And then, about 5 months later, they told me that I could go to a halfway house. I was like, what? I was only 6 months into my sentence. And I'm like, you mean I could get out there and like be productive out there? I was like, sign me up. No problem. Well, sign me up. I want to go. Okay, cool. I didn't realize, because you know me, I kept my head down. I wasn't there to make friends. I didn't even understand. My sentence was a 3 with a 2 stipulation. So I didn't even understand that. Time falls off. Like I didn't know how to read any of that. I don't know about bids, whatever,
Yeah.
As far as I was concerned, I was there for 3 years. That was going to happen. So we went, so I applied to go to the halfway house. Well, because I was on all those psych meds, not knowing the ins and outs, if you wanted to go to a regular halfway house, you have to come off the psych meds, get accepted into the house, and then you can go back on them when you get there.
Wow.
But because I was on psych meds, it only left me with one choice. And it was actually a halfway house inside a full-on treatment center with bars, and it was just a treatment center prison. That's all it turned out to be.
Wow.
When I first got there, it was it was pretty big, but it was so. Oh, and I had no fellowship. I had no assistance with gambling problems at all. Everything was substance. I didn't have anyone to talk to that even understood what a gambling problem was.
So hold, let me get it straight. So the only thing they talked about was like substance. They never even, did you even ask them, I have a gambling problem? They didn't say anything?
Nope, never.
Wow. Okay,
And
go
they
ahead.
knew. So anyway, I get to this treatment center, which is in Trenton. I'm happy because I never wanted we could wear our own clothes there.
Mhm.
And I never wanted my mom to see me in the jumpsuit. So I told her she could never, ever, ever come to Clinton. Okay. I did not want her to come and visit me there. Once I could wear, so I went to Trenton, and then she could come and see me better. It was closer, and she could come and see, that I was in regular clothes, and it was a little easier.
Yeah.
So anyway, I get there. At first, like I said, we had a big unit. They were doing a lot of stuff. I learned real quick, hey, every time AA comes in or every time NA comes in, I'm going to replace alcohol and I'm going to replace drugs in my head with gambling. At least the coping skills were going to be good, and that's how I helped with all that. After about 6 months, I guess a lot of the men and in that building, in that specific treatment center, it was run by the DOC. We were all inmates, and we had males and females, different levels and everything.
Mhm.
So at the time, they were closing different places in Jersey for the men, whether it was halfway houses or, who knows. So
Yeah.
the men moved into our unit. There was only 28, there was 28 females. Okay.
Wow.
And we all had space and we could all move in that unit. And then they moved us because the men were coming in and needed the space. So they moved us to what became, I call it a hallway. You had your showers at one end. You had a day space, like just the size of a basic room. And there were four bedrooms that each had 7 girls to a room. Yeah. So there's 28 of us in 4 rooms. And yeah, some people got jobs. They were sent out, they got jobs, and they could go out and make some money while they were there. Not Christine. Nope. She didn't get to go. They didn't know what to do with me.
Chris, I can tell you right now, and you know this, that number is a very special number for some reason, because it always comes up. That's your favorite number. 28.
Right?
28 is your favorite number. I know that, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
I know 7's a good number too.
Right? Hey, it's the best number.
Except when there's 2 of them together, but beside the point.
Right?
Yeah, so I was like, great. So anyway, now we're getting into 2020.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still at this center. All right. Nothing's happening for me whatsoever. Pretty much stuck there. I start to get, nicknames like Chris the Snitch. That was fun. Yeah. I never even talked to anybody or told anybody anything, but I had that tag. I had that. Like, one of the things doesn't belong. It's you. Yeah. And I was like, I don't even talk to anybody.
Wow.
These were just some of the things.
Wow.
So on April 4th of 2020, we always had a paper that we had to fill out ever since that March. when we were hit with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
We had a paper we had to fill out every day in case we had signs and symptoms. That day I woke up and I actually thought it started out as allergies. But then, and remember, I never went anywhere. So it had to be brought in. The counselors could go in and out. There was times we had counselors at night who were they were scratching off scratch-offs, while sitting there with us. And I'm like, no one cares. Another thing I'm asked before I go any further, is how did you not gamble in prison?
Yeah, that is very true. A lot of people gamble in prison.
Yep. Well, that was easy for me. Everybody always had a job to do. Whether it was to go get ice, it's your turn to clean the unit, mop the floors, whatever it was. Well, cleaning to me, and it still is therapeutic.
Okay.
I do. So I started doing their jobs for them, and I'd be like, okay, yeah, I'll take my ramen now. Have a nice day, That's how I would get commissary, and I didn't have to gamble or bet for it. So that's just something that became a thing for me.
Okay.
And I do it while, I was at the treatment center too. So yeah. So on April 4th, I get symptoms. They take me downstairs and they put a thermometer on me. They take it and they're like, yeah, you got a fever. Okay. Now what? Okay. They're like, okay, we're going to put you in this other room and, there's a phone in there. So I was like, okay, cool. Let me call my mom. And they told me to put my khakis back on. So I wasn't going to a hospital. They were taking me back to taking me back to the state prison.
Okay.
They were taking me back to state prison, not a hospital. Right.
Oh, okay.
Right. Yeah. So I called my mom and said, I have symptoms and I'm going back there. I don't know what to tell you, because when you go from place to place, my phone privileges weren't going to be transferred over anytime soon. Any money I had on my books not being transferred, and they're dealing with this epidemic and people were dying. I got back there. After 45 minutes, they decide they're keeping me. They put me in a hazmat suit, pretty much take all my stuff, give me new stuff, and they're like, okay. And they put us in the solitary lock confinement cells while we're quarantined. There's still no test yet. Mind you, this is only the beginning of April. Still no test yet. It took me about 3 days after I asked to get a blanket. I saw a stretcher come in and go out with a sheet over it, around me. These things were happening. When they brought you your food when they brought you your food, you had to put a mask on, you had to back all the way up, and they put your tray of food on the floor and you could go and get it. When they did your vitals, you were like 4 feet away from the nurse. They were giving us cold packs. And for anyone who doesn't know what a cold pack consists of, it's a Zyrtec, a cough drop, an antibiotic, and a Motrin. That's what they were giving us, that the people who had COVID. I'm pretty sure that my CPAP machine definitely saved my life in there. Okay. Definitely saved my life. Because I didn't have so much of the respiratory part of the COVID.
Okay.
I'm sure that was definitely. Forget it. Could barely take showers. I couldn't make phone calls. The only thing, I had nothing to write with. I had a little pen and I had the book for my CPAP machine, which I could probably put together right now if I remember correctly. That's all I had, and a window.
Wow.
My mom could only call and find out if I was alive or dead during the COVID. Of course, another week and a half goes by. They finally get the test. They confirm I have it. Still, they're just giving us antibiotics. They didn't know, and I get it. Nobody knew anything. After they were taking my vitals for days and days and days. They came and got me and they said, okay, we're going to take you out now. And I was like, okay, what now? So they said, okay, good. You're going to go into, a medium security where we're keeping people over here. Okay, great. They put me in there. If I ever had one good night of my whole entire bid, it was that one. I was able to take a good shower, eat at a table, try to get the ball moving on when can I call my family, how do I get into all these things? Like I said, shower, whole thing. I go, I'm like done for the night, and laying down, and they come back and they go, Paladino, and I'm like, yes. They're like, yeah, you got to come back with us. What do you mean I got to come back? You got to go back in there. Why do I have to go back? Well, the new protocol is you had to go 5 days without a fever. You only went 4, so we're putting you back.
Oh, shit.
But so they're going to put me back for another 5 days. Then the unit that I was just in, I just made more friends because now they're quarantined for 2 weeks. Yeah. After 5
Wow.
days, sure enough, you can go back. I go back. I'm down, I'm downstairs from the unit I was in. They kept me there, and then they started talking about this thing called home confinement. Okay. I said, I don't care what it is. I'm applying if you're saying I can, because it has the word home in it.
Got it.
Definitely. Okay. I apply. Everything goes through. The Monday before Mother's Day of 2020, my mom was able to come up and get me. They put a bracelet on me. So now I was going on home confinement. Okay.
Cool.
Yes, it's house arrest, but I cannot leave the premise. I cannot go outside for any reason. So it's not like, you could go get the mail or go to a store or call in and say, I'm going here. I had to make 2 phone calls a day. The bracelet is on me. I am home. I'm home, and now we don't know how long that's going to last. Everything's still up in the air. How long am I going to be on it? Do I have to go back? No one knows, because I still had 19, 20. Because I still had a good, I still had a good year left, pretty much on my sentence. So I was like, okay, here we go. So I get home, I'm making my phone calls, I'm doing everything. And then here's where the magical part of everything. This is where things start to come together, right?
Okay.
There, all of a sudden, because of COVID, it's like, yeah, COVID sucked. Forget what happened to me. But now here's where COVID comes into play. That it might have been a blessing, not so much a curse.
Okay.
I get home. I'm able to get my groups back. All my rooms are online now because nobody could meet up in person. I get my fellowship back. I get my therapist back who helped me for so long. She's
Awesome.
on teletherapy. I get my psych back. Awesome. Okay, so all that's coming back into play. I have all that good, everything that got me that first year in recovery. I have it all back. And now I need a plan. What's Chris going to do? What's she going to do now?
Mm-hmm.
During that time period, I found out about the state advocacy group, let's put it that way, and what they do for problem gamblers.
Mm-hmm.
I find out about them. I attended some conferences online, just got more familiar, because now that person in me that always wanted to help people, that firefighter, that 911 operator, that EMT, that person inside of me, well, how can I bring that person back out to help people not end up where I was? So it was during that time I said, okay, I signed up for some classes and whatnot. I was getting a plan together. Never really had one of those, not a good one. So I had, getting the plan together. Then and I'm doing that all the time. Then in August, I'm just getting educated. Instead of, catching up on a year and a half's worth of Netflix, I was online learning everything that I could.
Got it.
Yep. So I was just getting things together. They sent me my release papers, and they said that September 12th was going to be my day. You're done. everything. You're getting credits. Don't worry about the rest of your time. You're getting credits, yada yada. And I was like, oh, all right. They were going to come, cut the bracelet off, do whatever they had to do.
Got it.
But that time, the governor didn't sign the required bill that needed to be passed. So they were like, yeah, never mind. Just rip those up. And I got put back to November 4th. That was the actual day. And it was like a mass exodus of everybody. You got credits towards your time and whatever. So I got a couple months off. And then they came to the house. They gave me the scissors to cut my bracelet off. I guess they weren't that worried about me.
Okay.
And I said, okay. I left it on the floor and I was like, I can't wait to drive my car right now. And then something else too, which I didn't mention, and I love my dogs. I always did.
Mm-hmm.
While I was in the treatment center, my 8-year-old at the time, my 8-year-old dog, she passed away.
Oh.
And I was kind of glad that I wasn't in the puppy program at the same time that happened.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how that would have gone. Probably not well.
Yeah.
But my other guy, he was doing good. And so when I got home, he was there with me the whole home confinement.
Was that Jack?
Jack. Yeah. Jack made it. He was my older guy. Yeah, Jack was good. I was so happy for my family's support. My mom took one and my uncle took Jack and my mom took Carolina. So Carolina passed away while I was away. When I got on home confinement, I got to spend every day with Jack. So I get done, all that. And then I just found a job. I had to be right, get back into society. I found some shipping job locally, minimum wage, whatever, getting things focused. And then 2022, Jack passed away in September, but hey, he was 17. He was 17. They both had amazing lives. I took them everywhere,
Ladies and gentlemen, she named that dog after her favorite character in the movie. What was it? What, the Jack Sparrow?
Captain Jack Sparrow. Yes.
Yes. She's a huge fan of that movie. I remember that. so
Yeah.
she named her dog after that. Well, I had to put that one in. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. Yeah, no. He's special. He's still with me somehow, some way. But yeah, prior to going in, I had taken a trip. I took both dogs with me. They became supportive because they were going to keep me out of the casinos. I wasn't bringing 2 dogs in the casino. It was Jack became a service dog. Carolina became a therapy dog. She would go with me. I just made them such a big part of my whole recovery. So, okay, in December of 22, I saw, because I was on an email list or whatever, I saw that the advocacy group I spoke about earlier was looking for somebody to help, looking for someone that met everything, answering phone calls, giving resources, giving help, things like that. And I saw it and I was like, oh, I'll apply for that. Why not? Can't hurt. And I did, and I applied. And then in December, while I was on the interview to answer the phones, they were like, no, we think we have something better for you. And I was like, okay. And they said, it's prevention specialist. And I was like, okay, problem gambling prevention specialist. Got it. Wow. I didn't think I qualified, but they did. So I said, okay. And then January of 2023, I started with them. My job takes me to treatment centers. My job takes me to high schools. My job takes me to events, senior centers, you name it, any community, any group, to basically advocate, talk about everything gambling harms, gambling prevention. This past December, I became an international gambling recovery specialist, a certified one.
Awesome.
Knew I was certifiable, but now I'm certified. Anyway, so there was that. And then I have 7 years and 3 months gamble free. And
Awesome.
by not having the gambling addiction, being able to pay it forward the way I do now, you know, I don't fall into traps of other addictions. You know, I didn't switch gambling out for something else. Like, it's just not part of my routine. It's not part of my habit anymore.
I love it, Chris. I love everything you said right there because we gonna wind it down. We've been on for a little bit,
That's
but but there's one thing I gotta say. You told probably one of the best amazing stories I ever had. The ups and downs, how well you started, how well you went through ups and downs, how well you are now. You are advocate for gambling. One for you right now, but before we play my little game with you,
okay. Yeah.
but how easy is it to spot a person with a gambling addiction
This
for you?
she was good the whole time. Sorry.
Yeah, it's all right.
How hard is it to spot? It's very hard. It's not easy to spot unless you're with that person like every single day, or you handle the finances of that person.
So
Yeah, that's
that's
so yeah, so it's not easy to spot unless you are constantly with them. So if you start to notice things like preoccupation of time, all of a sudden they never like sports, but they're constantly checking scores, or they're on their phones, you know, when it comes to the sports gambling aspect. When they're constantly on their phones, start seeing money's missing, you know, but it's very, very hard.
Go ahead. Keep talking. You good? Keep talking.
It's very, 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 very hard to tell, because like I said, it's a hidden addiction. You know, I didn't want to tell anybody. Nobody knew. If you don't have anyone to answer to, good luck. You know, it's very tough. There are warning signs, but, you know, like I said before, it's not like a substance. Something physically happens to you. Nothing can physically happen to you.
Chris, you told an amazing story. And right, I give every guest the last word. But right now, I'm gonna run through play my little game with you right quick as we wind this down.
I will do my best.
Are you ready to play with me today?
Sure.
Okay. What moment in your life would you want to experience one more time?
Walking into my first fellowship room.
I love that right there. Here go an interesting question for you. What was your favorite toy as a kid?
Oh my gosh.
Mm.
My favorite toy as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was My Little Ponies. Like the originals and Care Bears. You know, the figurines?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. What's the weirdest thing you've ever eaten?
Weirdest thing I've ever eaten. Huh. I try to stay away from the weird things. Frog legs.
Oh, I've had that before. Yeah, I mean, everybody say it tastes like chicken. No, they don't. They don't taste like chicken.
No, that was weird. No.
No.
I wouldn't do that again.
What's your guilty pleasure?
Now?
Yes.
Oof. Pizza.
Mm.
Pizza. Like real pizza.
Real pizza.
Not the cauliflower and the thin crust that I have to eat now to stay healthy. No, real.
All right, we'll give you like 2 more. You know what? I'm interested about this. What was your first job ever?
First job ever was at an arcade. Wow, where have I heard that before?
Okay, I know that was me. No, that was my third job. Sorry, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, it was an arcade. on the boardwalk, and they had rooftop golf, like mini golf on the roof. So I would go between the arcade and there.
Okay. All right. I'm going to ask you 3 more here. This is actually going to be really good. I want you to think about this one. If you could ask your future self one question, what would that question be?
Ah,
Mm,
I would ask, how grateful are you that you have found your passion and your purpose?
that's awesome. I actually like that one. I actually like that one. That's actually a good one right there. I got one for you. If you can meet, I probably know the answer to this question, but if you can meet any one person in the world today, who would that be?
Saquon Barkley.
Gosh.
Not who you thought.
Yeah, exactly. I thought that. Yeah. All right, last question. If past you can see present you now, what would they say?
I am the only one that you are in competition with.
Love that. Chris, I'm going to give you the last word. I don't know if anybody, I know somebody's going to watch this. Maybe somebody can watch this and point this off to somebody else. Everything you've been through these last few years, last couple years,
Mhm.
gambling, gambling addiction. What's your final message to someone you think who they might think they got a gambling problem, they might not think, or they might know someone who has one? What's a message that you can give to people because you're an advocate now on this platform? What's a good message you can give to people right now about gambling and helping somebody with gambling addiction?
You got it. Check your resources. There are so many great ways to screen yourself. Know how to set limits. If you need to, find somebody that you trust. You have to talk it out. Just if you think you have an issue, do some research. Just, you don't have to admit who you are or anything just to, Google help for gambling. It's really widespread. And not only that, we have to keep check of what our youth is doing. You might not think of it, but we know that youth looks up to you. And now they have full exposure to it. So it's important to pay attention to what they are doing. You might not think it's not a substance, so they're okay to be doing this, but again, that's become a big thing for us. It is becoming public health, due to the over amount of, shame and the mental health aspect. It's basically becoming a public health epidemic. So really just know that there is help out there. You can look up any kind of thing. They have screening tools that you do yourself. And yeah, just get help if you think you need it. And not just for you. There are treatments available for anyone who is affected by a problem gambler. They have different fellowships for that. They have treatment. You can talk to a counselor only, if you're just know someone who is, and, keep track, help people out, be there for them, and, bring awareness to the fact that it's there. We can't ignore that hidden addiction anymore.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Chris, I appreciate you coming on here today. You told an amazing story. Well, I didn't know a lot of this shit. I heard some of it. We talked throughout the years, but your story is flat out amazing. I'd say what you've overcome to then to now is flat out amazing. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
I'm proud of you. Everybody, I want you to check out this episode. Please like, subscribe, follow, share. Please, this is a great episode. And we will see you next week on Let's Talk About It. Peace, everybody.